All right, hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Kirby Russia. We just talked about the attack on Trump's life, got into a little bit of conspiracy discussion. But anyways, if you don't know who I am, I work in the Russian media. I am an American-born Russian citizen, and I definitely know how the world works through the lens, how it looks through the lens of the Russian media and all that. So that's what we're here to do. And let's talk a little bit about the adventures of Viktor Orban, who's been going across the globe. And if it weren't for this incident with Trump, I was going to say unfortunate. We don't know that it's unfortunate or fortunate yet. This incident with Trump, then I think Orban's activities, or perhaps going rogue, would be issue number one. So I've been watching a lot of material about this. Again, guys, I don't like to jump the gun with stuff. I kind of like to let other people who don't mind making embarrassing mistakes provide instant answers to the questions that the media raises. But with Orban, so he's been, trying to make peace between Kiev and Moscow, and he was sort of the first EU official to speak to Putin in like a while. And he went to China to talk to Xi, and this is pretty crazy. Now, I've heard a few things that, of course, number one is the usual. It's all fake. Orban is fake. He's actually part of the EU system. He's within the EU. This whole thing about Hungary, it's all a lie. It's just to give people hope. Because remember, Orban created this block of like right-wing parties within the EU. And that's kind of going based on the logic of our previous conversation we had here, that a lot of people are saying that this block of right-wing parties is just to make people believe they have a voice in the system. Because before that, you would have in the European Parliament like 95+%, of various parties that are pro-EU, and then the Eurosceptics would get like this sort of like handful of dusty seats in the back that couldn't really accomplish anything. And so there's the one way of looking at things that, Orban, he's part of the machine. Now he's going to aid in making Brussels look more legitimate because they're going to look like they're going to have votes and this, that, and the other. I don't think that's the case. What I think is happening, guys, with these big visits. Well, first off, you could say that Trump, or not Trump, Orban wanting to make peace in Ukraine is obviously beneficial because he borders that region and he seems to be kind of sick of this. So there's obviously that sort of thing. What I think he's actually doing with all this globetrotting is he's hedging his bets. He's hedging his bets because one, after Fico got filled full of bullets, that was a pretty ballsy thing to reveal that he's created this coalition of right-wing parties. Again, maybe he's part of the machine that's all fake. But ultimately, on the one hand, he sort of put his money down on fighting for Europe with his coalition of right-wing parties. But he also just went over to the multipolar world and started butt-kiss-o-mania. Sort of like, well, guys, if the EU collapses, I never really said anything that bad about you. Was I hating? There's no hating involved. I never advocated for that stupid war. Taiwan, that's an internal Chinese issue. I don't care. That's what he's doing. Because if one thing people say that if there's any politician who looks out for his own country, it's probably Orban. And so, yeah, he's hedging his bets. He's just waiting to see which side in this grand war wins. Because it also, if the multipolar world doesn't arise for some reason, which will be the death of me, that's for sure. If it doesn't arise, he can always go back to Europe and say, well, we didn't leave NATO. Well, it's not like we attacked Kiev and took back our territory that was rightfully ours. I mean, we never really violated to any major extent EU policy. I mean, maybe some of the migration agreement, like the whole Lisbon agreement. Well, I don't know if it's really a violation. Just kind of, just because it just wasn't working for us at the time. You see, I think that's ultimately what's going on here. That he's sort of playing both sides to see who wins. And in fact, I can't remember who it is. Because I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't watch them, I listen to them. And someone was saying that weaker countries back the winner. That like some of the smaller countries they're really oriented towards backing the winner, and it seems more and more like the winner is going to be the global south, the multipolar world, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I think that's what Orban is doing as the leader of a smaller country, is being like, well, the winds of change are a blowing, or is it the winds of time are a blowing? I don't remember that song very well. But anyways, the winds of change are blowing, and I got to orient my sails in the proper direction. That's what I think is. Oh, Shiva B has a comment. So let's see. It's about whether Vladimir Putin is right wing or left wing. He's neither. He is a philosopher king who is above the fray of the left and the right. I would actually say Putin is not philosophical. He is not a real idea person. He's more of a legal kind of guy. But yeah, within Russia, this whole left versus right thing just is dumb. Maybe that's why it's easy for me to say that I think the future, we need to stop thinking in terms of left and right and start thinking in terms of whether you're for the global hegemon or whether you're for the multipolar world. The monopolar world or the multipolar world. That really determines a lot about your political worldview. I think that's the real key issue, because it doesn't matter like in the French elections. You can have this, or the German elections, maybe even worse. You can be like, have a coalition of some sort of like Christian Democrats who don't believe in Christ, a bunch of Greens, and then some kind of like other weird party that's theoretically financially conservative. But since they're all on the side of hegemony and the monopolar world, they all essentially behave the same. Whereas the alternative, or Alternative auf Deutsch, or however it's pronounced, they at least seem to be the advocates for the multipolar world, so they're not allowed to participate in government. They are under attack, and they are the bad guys. And it doesn't matter what their politics would be. If another party in Germany rose up that was liberal and green, but was multipolar, they would be thrown right with the Alternative auf Deutsch. Or für Deutsch. That's not auf, it's für Deutsch, I think, right? See, yeah, because it's AFD, für. I don't know. Sorry, guys, my brain is farting. Yeah. But anyways, that AFD party, let's just use English pronunciation of the letters. If they, again, any parties in Germany that would rise up to be multipolar would be thrown with them. And that's pretty much the same anywhere. And that's also why, another reason also, it's a good explanation as to why so many electoral systems are so disappointing, especially in the West, is it's because deep down, whether it be, like the freaking Tories and Labour and whoever the hell else in England, besides the Reform Party and maybe one other, memory's not working, they're all for the hegemon. They're all monopolar. So they all ultimately, in the long run, behave the same. They're all sort of flavors of the same type of coffee, And so that's the real issue of our times. And I think we need to... it's hard to... Because this whole left versus right thing, doesn't that go back to, like, the French Revolution? So we've been using this way of looking at things for hundreds of years, guys. So it's not going to go away tomorrow. But I think we should start to work on it because it isn't good. And you also see then, too, with Orban and his block of right-wing parties, as he calls them. They're multipolar, right? Because anyone who'd be willing to do, really want to change things, his view of Europe would be a sovereign, civilizational Europe within the context of a multipolar world. So, essentially, it's not an alliance of right-wing parties, it's an alliance of multipolar parties. That's what Orban's doing. That's who they really are. Now, again, you could say it's fake, okay. Yeah, so think about that one. So, in the future, I think, too, especially, again, when we get to American politics, with the left and right and all this, as we've seen over time, the differences have sort of faded away. Because if you look at your mainstream Republicans, and again, guys, my brain's, I'm turning into Joe Biden. My dementia's already setting in. But, you get your Republicans of your Mitt Romneys and Ted Cruz's, and is Lindsey Graham a Republican? I think he is. And then if you go to the Democrat, see the thing, it doesn't even matter because they're all the fucking same. But if you go to the Democrats, you get, your Hillary Clintons and your, oh gosh, who else is even a famous Democrat anymore? Man, I can't even remember. But anyways, you get onto these two sides of things. Ultimately, they all behave somewhat similar. They all just sort of are slightly different flavors of the same overall ideology. Like someone said earlier, two sides of the same coin. But when you look at the world through people who are for multipolarity and people who are for hegemony and the monopolar world, it is not two sides of the same coin at all. And that's where the truth lies. And you may have heard that here first. And you may have heard that here first, folks. That's what I was trying to say. Because I don't think that's been really said anywhere else. Another original idea from Tim Kirby Russia. Not all the ideas shared on this channel are original. In fact, probably very few of them are. But that was one. So there you go. And that guy who said they wanted to cut out videos when I have something really good to say for those YouTube shorts, how about you do one about this one? So, anyways, guys, that's another good topic. So we have to do left. Oh boy, let's do a post here. Let's do I'll create a poll. What works better to show political beliefs? Right versus left. Mono versus multipolar. There you go. You guys can vote on the channel. What works better to show political beliefs? The right versus left dynamic, or mono versus multipolar? So yeah, there you go. But anyways, let's see. Does someone want to any comments? Yeah. Oh, Bakani wants to talk. Hey, you want to talk? Hello. Unmute yourself. That is critical.
Finally.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Good day to you, man. And how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. For some reason, I just can't sleep. I wasn't really planning on doing a live stream, but I was like, my eyes won't close. I'm for some reason really kind of energized, and so I decided to come online. So, sleep schedule is thrown into the garbage for now.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Anyway, man. First of all, thank you so much for allowing me into this thing. I don't know why I wasn't allowed to comment to comment further.
Oh, we have a basically a bot, and it
Yeah.
if you comment too quickly, it'll just be like, stop commenting, you're spamming. It's just the bot. Don't worry about it. Don't take it personally. It's an AI.
Yeah. Anyway, man. Yeah, just a quick comment, bro, before I sleep, man. All my said is also late as well. Anyway, I just want to say that to be honest, man, I think when I look at this world, really, I think it's all at the end of the day. I think what needs to be fixed really is there needs to be there needs to be three things which need to take place for kind of like for something for stability to kind of like come into being. Firstly, I believe that when it comes to issues of, for example, let's say demographics and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think there must be a radical like intolerance towards things like abortion. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, what I believe in is there has to be also another thing, also a radical intolerance. I mean a super radical intolerance towards traditional what to call it, relationships which are not traditional. For example, homosexuality.
Yeah.
Because many people talk about transgender and all that stuff, which is quite true. Really, transgenderism isn't okay, but many people miss the issue of homosexuality, because the very basis of this whole LGBTQ thing, it is when homosexuality was tolerated in the society. Then it snowballed into something else. Then thirdly, I think there's to be a return to the death penalty of rapists and murderers. Because when you see these cases of murdering everywhere, here's what I believe in. It doesn't matter if you live in a civilized society or, let's say, society with low crime. People who murder, regardless of how tight it is, if they see some space, right, where they can do their thing, especially if it's in a country where they don't do the death penalty, they will take advantage of it, and then they'll do whatever they're doing. But if there is a death penalty, I believe that will stop, and it must be something which must be proposed in every society. I'm a Christian. I believe in the death penalty. I believe that murderers, rapists, to some extent, maybe those who commit aggravated homosexuality must be killed. I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we come to that conclusion or to that consensus, I think our societies will be more safe. And also the abortion thing, I think it's wrong to kill children. It's not something we should be tolerated as, oh, okay, let's reduce it. No, and with those cute words, I believe it must be stopped completely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I have to say, man, because I'm tired of
All
this
right.
thing.
Well, then let me mute you there, not because you're a bad person. As you made a good blanket statement. We were talking about sort of left versus right wing, and you sort of made a very more right wing kind of answer to a lot of society's problems. So here's the thing: is about what you're saying. Is you're a man and I'm a man. And what you just said makes a lot of sense, and I think that has a very masculine way to look at the world. All right. When it comes to a lot of the stuff about like abortion and all that, hold on. I think the real problem, okay, is let me put it this way, Bakani. You just sort of mentioned that. I don't think maybe you even used the word survive, or maybe you didn't. Maybe I'm just making that up. But I've noticed one of the real problems about because I deal with this issue a lot in my sort of career here in Russia, and a lot of times giving speeches, is that I think one of the things that we've become confused about in the modern world across the globe is I think we've lost our sense of fear, that if we make mistakes, our lives could be ruined. And I think that is a mistake. I think we can very much really ruin our lives very easily. Well, what do I mean by this? People long ago, like let's just say the 1800s, let's go way back to the 1800s. I think it was pretty obvious through the way culture worked, or the fact that people went to church or mosque or whatever religion, Buddhist temples. People, it was very clear, like, hey, if you have a lot of sex before marriage, you could get pregnant, and no guys are going to want to marry you, and then who's going to provide for your kid, and are you going to become homeless, and then maybe you have to sell your body for the rest of your life, but you're going to be selling that body on the street to take care of your kid, and you are going to destroy your life. And I think that was clear, like your sort of issue and consequences, like and on a lot of levels, right? Even the same thing was, for men, it was like, if you don't do something with your life, and you don't have a decent home, or if you're not able to provide for a woman and kids in the future, you're going to be a virgin until you die, right? These things were pretty clear. There were some, basically, we really were very blunt with people back in the old days. And I think the problem is we don't actually, maybe we do instill people with all sorts of weird fears and stuff now, but I actually think that we should be still in survival mode. I think people have sort of been convinced that they're not that life now isn't really a fight for survival, but it is, man. I can tell you one thing: I never thought about that when I was young, but when I came to another country with no real estate and no connections, boy, it sure turns you into a fighter to get stuff, man. To get real estate, to take care of your kids, and all this other stuff. You see what I mean? I might not be explaining this very well because I haven't quite put these thoughts together, but I think, again, if people were filled more with a sense of kind of fear, they might gravitate more towards traditional things. Because I think with this whole thing, especially about like you mentioned, abortion and all that, a lot of people are not super afraid of the consequences of sex anymore, and they just sort of see this as some sort of way to get out of it, and that has the consequences of making society in general become more, I'm explaining this badly, but anyways, I kind of agree with you, but we have to really try to put the fear of God into people, and make them understand that these traditional conservative values and stuff existed for a reason, and they work better, And here's the reasons why they work better. I think that that's ultimately what we need. When it comes to like the death penalty and stuff, the problem is, dude, I've met too many people who are important in many different countries, especially Russia. Only God can judge in that sense. Let's just have that be life in prison, because mistakes happen, and you can always correct life imprisonment at some point along the line. So I kind of worry about the whole death penalty thing, because very often the state is acting in its interests, not so much in the interests of truth. And again, yeah, we have to have a court system, and we have to have judges who pass judgment. But again, if we're gonna believe that God is sort of the arbiter of like life and all that, once a threat has been removed and you can shove some guy in a hole from which he'll never escape, I don't know if we should really be pulling the trigger when that's God's duty. So I'm not quite on the same page as you, but about making it clear what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. And also that, too, one of the things that's hard to explain is, why are so many people depressed and miserable and anxious and all these mental health issues as we get more and more liberal, and we, are more and more about ourselves and our happiness and just being ourselves and being free. Our sort of liberal freedoms go up, our misery just goes down and down and down into an infinite pit. So the thing is what we really have to do is just explain to people that this old school way of looking at the world, I don't know if it guarantees happiness, but the math, your chances of being a happier person are much higher. I even look back to people like my grandparents, very calm, not really fazed by stuff. My parents were pretty tough too, but a lot of people were old school, man. They were really mentally equipped to live in a very harsh world under harsh terms. And people say, oh, it's because people had to survive World War II and all this other shit, and World War II made them hard. Well, not for 3 out of my 4 grandparents who didn't have to fight in the war. It's like, oh, my grandmothers, they couldn't buy nylon stockings for 3 years. And it's still, they were just from a harder generation, a harder way of looking at things. So, yeah, I kind of feel what you're saying, and I support it. But anyways, we're getting a little bit off track. Jason wanted to chime in on our previous topic. Left versus right is almost a meaningless term anymore. I'm glad we agree. It's mostly become a way to categorize people and dismiss them when they don't have the same ideology as you do. Perhaps ideology can move nations, but what of pragmatism? Shouldn't what's beneficial to your people take precedence in the independence of what may fall in your fickle ideological spectrum? Well, Jason, that's where it comes in, is there's arrogance, right? And that's what we just had. Maybe, I don't know if you people watch all my programs. It'd be great if you did. But remember when a journalist, frontline military correspondent, Andrei Afanasy came on, he talked about capitalism, communism. He said, we should not build people to suit some sort of economic system. We should build a flexible economic system or systems that suit people. And that's a point of humility. And remember, this whole ideology thing is that when people become very ideological, this ideology becomes sort of part of their ego, and they can't become practical because they can't budge, because they can't accept that their ideology could be wrong. Whereas when you talk to me, I can admit I'm wrong all the time because I don't care. My ego is not that big, and because I've been well versed in all sorts of different ways of doing things, right? And sometimes one works and sometimes one doesn't. I can see with Russia how with this war going on, how having these state companies be heavily controlled and at the mercy of the government is way better than the American capitalist system, where essentially the government has to beg mand and pay has to like beg mand that the military industrial complex actually gives them stuff, and then has to pay them for the pleasure of beg manding. You know what I mean? If you see what I mean? So that's sort of an example of almost like, communism, really control over production, by the government. But we don't need that when it comes to like T-shirts and when it comes to, oh gosh, a lot of stuff that we see around us and buy. This keyboard I have in front of me, this nice microphone. We don't need the government, and we don't need it to work like the Russian military-industrial complex. We can have, for different things, we have to have, different systems. Or just like the fucking head of the one and only member of the Homeowners Association where I live, he has this obsession that if we give up the transformer to the, because it's from the Soviet Union, if we give it up and we sacrifice it to the authorities at the Moscow Energy, then that means they'll control it. They'll control our transformer and they'll control us. And it's like, that's the perfect example of some sort of like egotism, because it's like, but that's how it works everywhere. Because regardless, we're dependent on their electricity. We can be dependent on their electricity with their equipment or without their equipment. And with their equipment, they come and fix it quickly. Without their equipment, we have less electricity because it works badly. We have to pay them to maintain it and all. But it's ego. It's this like ideology that we don't want to have them have control over us. Like, so again, when we're talking about, like, especially about Russia, one of the nice things about being here is that there is no more ideology. We've more or less gone back to Christianity, and that's good, because Christianity is very vague. No matter what your Protestant preachers might tell you, Christianity is very vague about a lot of this stuff, except usury is bad. Usury is right bad in the Bible. That is a big no-no. But when it comes to, like, issues of the means of production and this stuff, there's not too much about that. So anyways, Christianity is the better option. It is not as boxing in of a system. So yeah. So anyways, Bakani wants to talk again. Real quick, Bakani, then I'm going to go to sleep. So let's talk for a little bit here.
Oh yes, thank you so much once again, man. I do agree with what you say. I just want to ask if you think I'm wrong or not, but I just want to say this. So you see, with the rise of like nationalism and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
What I believe that nationalism is not a return to how the nation was, but rather a reaction to a cultural change.
Yeah.
What do I mean by this? For example, England, right? England was a Christian country, and it had Christian principles because of its Christianity, right? Because of Christ. And because of that, because they adhered to the Bible and, the principles of marriage, and, they married the right way, and, they obeyed the law, right? You should give birth to children, as it is written in Genesis. And because of that, the English people, or the Scottish people, or the British people in general, were full, and they filled the land due to the fact that they were Christians and they obeyed the Christian law, and they had children because of that. Then as liberalization came in, you had abortion, the rise of homosexuality, and all this decadent stuff, right? Which then led to the decline. Then after the decline, because they saw that these cultural changes had to happen, like they did happen as a result of that. And then because of that cultural change, and then the people like, oh, England wasn't the way it was, let's say, 150 years ago. Then they, instead of turning back to Christianity, they turned to nationalism, which is kind of like a reaction to the cultural change. So I don't know if you think I'm right or wrong.
Well, I think, yeah. So here, again, let me mute you, not because you're a bad person, but because I want to not have the weird background noises. Yeah, I think you're very much onto something, and I, on this particular issue, agree with you a lot. And it's one of these things where it goes, again, we're sort of talking about arrogance and ego, right? And it's the same thing. It's like people are now, especially, like here, let's take this phenomenon of the whole, like, the trad wife thing, where guys are looking for a trad wife. But a lot of these women who sort of sign up to this, the husbands won't really give them any of their money. And it's like, no, that's not how traditional marriages work. It's sort of like this weird, like, they think what the 1950s in their minds was, and which tends to be the woman sort of, at least in their minds, sort of does everything for the man, and the man does not really do anything for her. That's what a traditional marriage was, and it wasn't. So yeah, these people, it's like they want to go back to this better England, but they don't want to do this whole big system that tells you to not engage in all of your carnal pleasures. Because as soon as you have some guys saying, you really shouldn't drink that much, you really shouldn't smoke weed, sex should be within marriage, maybe God might look the other way if it happens a little bit outside of marriage, but it really should be in marriage and for procreation. See, they don't want that. They want, it's like they don't understand that it was part of a bigger picture. They think that they can just somehow through some nationalist movement make what was. Or you get into like Scandinavia. Scandinavian nationalists all want to go back to the stupid freaking pagan times. And the pagan times didn't work. You know, that's why they were crushed. That's why the pagans didn't survive, because their system just didn't work. That's why the ancient Russians invited Christianity to come in, because they knew that they were going to lose. First, they invited Rurik to become the first sort of grand prince and organize Russia into something more country-like, given the context of what would that be, 9th century kind of country would look like, based on their perception of how that would be. And then after that, when Christianity was kind of taking off, they had that great meeting where they discussed which religion to believe in, that they could use to establish a state. So literally Russia did this like sort of twice, where they had to we needed to adopt something to mentally survive. And that's the problem. The nationalists, they don't want to do that. They don't want to, like, I guess they just don't want to submit to anything. It's just arrogance. It's like, you know, they want to have somehow, it's like that weird, this weird thing. It's like, I want to have a traditional wife, and she's going to take care of me, and she's going to be at home all day, and she's going to greet me at the door with a smile, but I'm not going to pay her any money and do anything for her, and I'm going to play video games all day after work. No. These nationalists, I think, they've really forgotten. So, Bakani, about nationalism, I'm on your page. I'm just not expressing ideas very well. I think I've done too much live stream. I think we're on hour number 2 or something, and my brain's already falling apart. But I think you're onto something, man. These nationalists, it never works. But to be honest, all of the big three, your liberalism, communism, and your nationalism, all ultimately fail. And that's why I am an advocate of the traditional values, that we need to have our traditional religions, and these traditional religions are the symbiotic or somewhat separate from the government. That's what worked for hundreds upon hundreds of years. And if you look at it over the course of really the 20th century, look how the 20th century started and look how it ended. Look at how people were, especially Europeans. You can see how these three ideologies have just eaten away us as people. Christ was the answer, or for a lot of the world, the recitations that the Prophet Muhammad heard from the angel Gabriel, and that was pretty good for them. And it should be good enough for us. So that's, I think, the thing we should sign off on. Anyways, this was supposed to be more of a discussion about Viktor Orban going across the planet, hedging his bets, in my personal opinion. I hope you enjoyed this, but that's part of the fun of doing a live stream. And anyways, like I said, not in this particular live stream, but guys, there's good news. I may be able to start doing this program in a more professional way in the near future. There is hope. And remember, for anyone who's interested in the American Village, talk to me, because it's open and we got to fill it up quick. So anyways, guys, all the best. I will talk to you later. Yes, we will end the live stream after I